Hello, everybody. Welcome to BevNET Live Summer 2019 in New York City. My name is Martin Caballero. I'm the managing editor at BevNET.com. Welcome to the Livestream Studio. I'm really pleased to be joined by Jordan Gaspar, the managing partner of AccelFoods, longtime friend of Nosh and BevNET. How are you doing today, Jordan?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, you know, AccelFoods, large portfolio of food and beverage brands, very diverse. You know, if you had to sort of encapsulate in a word or a phrase or an idea, sort of the span of companies that you support and sort of the unifying idea there, what might that be?
Well, so clearly we have 35 companies in the portfolio, and they're all healthy living directed. I'd say that the unifying factor for us is that it is a collaborative platform. And so it's a partnership-based approach, and we always say that, you know, we have a type. And so every fund has their toolbox or the way that they approach working with brands, but for us it's really partnership-based because we do typically hold 5 to 20% positions in the company, and we take a wider approach in terms of our investment strategy.
Absolutely. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about that and sort of catch up on some things that have been going on recently. And I know in March you guys brought in some new operating partners. Had been affiliated with AccelFoods for some time, but I just want to talk about what does that sort of add to the brand? What was sort of the idea behind bringing those people in?
So with the new fund, things have grown quite a bit for us in the past year, which is great. We've certainly expanded our capabilities, but we wanted to really deepen the bench and have deeper resources for our companies as both the existing ones were growing bigger, and we were also started working with bigger companies. And so when we set up the operating partner suite, we really, from our perspective, it was by function and by domain. We wanted to bring in expertise to support brands that were really in that 5 to 50 or 75 or $100 million range. And so we feel that we've executed on that. There's 6 currently that we work with, and there'll be a couple more to come. So that's not been announced yet, including a new beverage one.
Exciting.
So we'll keep you guys in mind and let you know when that comes out. But it is intended to keep growing as the portfolio grows and we realize that there's different expertise we can bring in.
Well, it's so interesting because, talking about bringing those in that expertise and also what you mentioned before about really building partnerships. A lot of it, I imagine, is about sort of finding the right fit and evaluating the person and the entrepreneur and sort of how they fit in with what you guys are trying to do. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about sort of what are the things that you look for, how do you evaluate talent and people you want to work with?
So in every model, people always say, do you invest in the jockey or the horse? And we always have said we invest in the jockey. Our history is investing in early stage companies. And so it really takes a lot of resilience and grit to succeed. And I think as the companies have scaled, it also takes a lot of coachability and a lot of adaptability to build out a management team. And so for us, it's finding partners who we think are resourceful and resilient, but who are all really collaborative because they have to be able to work well with others. It's important to kind of know what you don't know. And so, because we're not investing in 2 to 3, food and beverage companies through the life of one fund, we're highly focused on what's our relationship with the founders. Do we feel like we have a good dialogue and a good rapport? Do we think that we work well with the management team? And I think that for us, it is about the people.
Well, so, okay, for example, you have a great partner, you found you have a great fit with them. How do you go about evaluating the opportunity of the product or of the brand itself?
So it's assumed that the food's going to taste good or that we can tweak it to make it even better. I think that we are looking for scalable supply chains and profitability metrics like other funds. We do like to invest in companies where we have a stronger lens on positioning. I think from our perspective, the market has gotten a little bit more saturated in terms of there's so many amazing new products coming in the market and there's so many great entrepreneurs. So it's going to take a real strong articulation of brand in order to stand out on shelf and to build community. And so for us, I think we're thinking a lot about, what is the mindset in terms of how to build scale on brand and how are people going to educate their consumers and build their community so that they can set themselves apart.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, too, when you have something that's maybe requires maybe a little bit more consumer education or maybe something more on the bleeding edge of a trend or something like that. With that market being saturated, I imagine there's a high value for differentiated brands like that. But how do you know sort of when is the right time to sort of pull the trigger on an investment, not to be too early, too late, but to try to get that right sweet spot?
So we are an inflection-based investor. We invest in companies that are pre-revenue up to over $50 million at the time of our partnership. And for us, it is about finding the right time. I think in every category, we think about the capital needs, we think about sort of the positioning amongst the competitive set. I do think that when it is a consumer education play, we were in Four Sigmatic very early. We like to get in earlier there so we can help set strategy and be thoughtful about sort of like laying the groundwork for the company. I think that in beverage in particular, it's highly capital intensive, so we're mindful of, on the flip side, we want to be thinking about long-term dilution. And so, we were a later investor in Harmless Harvest, but yet we were one of the earliest investors in Koya. So that just gives a little bit of a range.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, in just a general terms, and you're always observing the market. What are some of the things that maybe are interesting to you? Not committing to any investment or anything, but sort of, what are some of the things you're watching or maybe waiting to sort of develop further?
So we've been pretty unapologetic. We're on the hunt for family-directed brands. We want to be investing in kids snacking, kids beverage across the board. We believe that there's a real hole in the market for products that are appropriate for young families and for age groups that fall sort of underneath the typical norms. I think that from our perspective, there's a way to capture the consumer in multiple different ways in the households. And so for us, it has been family-directed products. We're also likewise particularly focused on female-directed products right now. Obvious reasons. We kind of understand their purchasing power and their purchasing habits. But I also think that likewise, there's been an underdevelopment in the market in addressing the needs of the female demographic across very different age groups. And so Raw Organic was one of the companies we've been particularly excited about that we invested in the past couple months and brought a great management team in because we feel like that's a real opportunity.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great example. I mean, that sort of, creating a category that is sort of male skewing and sort of opening it up to a larger audience. Is that sort of is that something that can be repeatable for other categories? Is there an opportunity for different categories to sort of open up to that different kind of audience?
Yeah, I do think that in the era of a lot of Me Too products coming in the market, it's important to find differentiated products that have unique positioning and then to commercialize it from there. It's hard to make something feel special that comes into the market and seems like everything else, but I do think that you're able to sort of expand and broaden a platform once you've found a niche that makes sense with a strong demographic that's attached to it.
Well, that was a Rethink, I believe, too. They sort of the kids line for Rethink was sort of an example of that, sort of opening up that other audience.
Yes. Yep, and now we've got the Splash line, and so we're expanding the platform there, which is great. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I wanted to ask you is you talk to so many people in the industry, and I imagine, obviously pre-revenue to having, up and running. What are some of the, misconceptions, or what are some of the things that you have to maybe dispel, myths you have to sort of disprove or something when you're talking to people? What are some of the misconceptions that people have about getting involved in the food industry or what they need to do to sort of be successful?
So a lot of young entrepreneurs come into this industry and they say, it's so big, there's so many people, there's so many retailers and brands, and it is a big industry with a lot of opportunity and a lot of wonderful people milling around here today. But then it's a small industry. And we all do business again and again together. And so it's really important to be managing the way you interact with others and to be collaborative in the industry because it's a small industry in the end. And from our perspective, we always take a lot of pride that the entrepreneurs that we invest in work well with others. Be mindful of your interactions with the investors. They all talk. Be mindful of your interactions with the service providers in the space. They all work together. And so I think it's really important to always put your best foot forward in terms of representing your brand and yourself with sort of the highest integrity. But this, as much as there's a lot of capital that's coming into our space, it's not tech. It is a feel-good industry with people who are excited with the work that they're doing, and they are proud of the companies that they're building and that they're investing in. And so you can't really just apply some of sort of those tech metrics to it.
Absolutely. Well, there's another trend that I want to ask you about, which is our next guest as well, too, CBD. I really just want to get your opinion on it, from anything from the business opportunity to the, functional quality of it. Just how do you sort of evaluate that opportunity and what you're seeing in the market so far?
CBD, everything's about CBD right now, which is great. I think, it just highlights the focus on functionality, and that people are looking for, better for you versions of everything. And we do believe that CBD more broadly will be a very large, market opportunity, whether it's solely in food and beverage or also in personal care, which we think that there's an even bigger opportunity. There's a lot of great brands coming up right now in beverage. and they're all helping each other pave the way, which is fantastic with different positioning and sort of different strategies. I'm excited to see kind of what breaks out in the next 6 to 12 months. Our big focus for anything in CBD is making sure the entrepreneurs are highly focused on the regulatory climate, being very protective of their labels, and I'm encouraging every single one of them to get on the phone with lots of lawyers, because I think that there is an underestimation of how much those brands really do need to protect themselves in like a very quickly changing regulatory climate.
Absolutely. Well, is that something that you need to sort of, as an investor or someone who's going to be involved in that, like you're trying products, you want to make sure that if you're investing in a beverage or food, it tastes good. Do you have to try CBD and make sure that you get some, personal satisfaction out of it? Or?
I mean, we try everything that comes in the office. Obviously we do want to enjoy or believe in the products. And I think that CBD is no different. There's a lot of CBD around the office. I do think that it's going to take more than just taste in that particular area of the space. It's going to take distribution capabilities. This is a very local issue. As much as that people get excited about the scale and the opportunity in CBD, we're going to have a strong regulatory climate on the local level that's going to impact distribution.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens. It's going to be really interesting. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for being our first guest. It's fantastic.